Welcome to the third interview with former residents, Herky graduates. We've got four different gentlemen here tonight. And so without any further ado, we'll get together. Yeah, I guess I'll introduce them.
Okay.
This is Bill Harmon, Rick Burchett, well-known cartoonist, Mark Caby, and Steve DeClue.
You're a cartoonist?
Or whatever he
I
is.
resent that.
So we'll start off, like I say, I know all of you pretty well. How long did you live in Herky? I know you don't live here now, but how long did you live and where do you live now?
Take it away, Bill.
Okay, I lived in Herky for, through college, so 20 years. And then I got out of school and went to, moved up field. So,
Where'd you move to?
we just initially, yeah,
You were a
pharmacist.
pharmacist. Okay, and where'd you live in Herculaneum?
Scenic Drive,
Scenic Drive.
above the golf course.
Yep. Rick?
I lived in Herky for 25 years, and I lived on Curve Street, which no longer exists. And I moved to St. Louis, lived in Clayton, and now live in Webster Road.
Mark?
I lived in Herky around 24 and a half years. Our house was on Hill Street, the old concrete town.
Steve?
Oh, my turn?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure when I finally left Herculaneum. They must have chased me out like Frankenstein, in my early 20s, but I grew up on St. Joseph Street in the house that was where it is now on the corner of St. Joseph and Lincoln. And then that used to be a single-story house, now it's a double-story, And then my parents moved up across from your mom and dad on Jefferson, so.
Yeah.
I lived there a few years, and now I live in Crystal City.
Okay. Who were your parents?
Richard and Betty Harmon,
Okay. How many siblings did you have?
and there was 8 of us, 5 boys and 3 girls. And I was the second oldest,
And you all went to
Herky.
Herky.
Yeah.
Rick, your parents?
My parents were Richard and Velma Burchett, but better known as Dick and Twiggy.
Yeah.
And they both, well, Mom lived in Herky her whole life, and Dad moved in there about the time Mom graduated from high school.
Okay. So she graduated from Herky as well?
Yeah.
Mark?
My parents were Richard and Shirley Caby. Dad actually grew up in Riverside, which is just across from Peebly. I guess it's still Peebly too. But he's a Herky graduate from high school. He was a POW in World War II. Mom is, her family moved to Herky while she was still in high school, I think it was. Greenville High School is where she ended up graduating from, and then she came up here for a little while. During the war, she worked up in St. Louis at the shell factory, and then she met my dad. Her side of the family, her family and my family, the girls and boys were good friends, so she met Dad after he came back from the war, and they got married, and so they've been living here since, I'd say, 51. That's when my sister was born.
And your sisters?
My sister was Janet Caby. Now she's married to a guy from Festus, Grant McKee, and they live just outside of DeSoto on Highfield Road. Got a little ranch there, of horses.
Just there Sunday on Highfield Road.
Yeah.
Rick, I know you had siblings too.
Yeah, both my sisters, Judy and Kathy, went to Herky and graduated from there, and they both grew up in Herky.
Okay. And Janet went to Pius.
Yeah, Janet went to Pius. Both of us, well, she went all 8 grades of grade school to the little Assumption Catholic school. I went 6 years, and then in her 8th grade year, after my 6th year, they closed that down. So then I went to Peebly for a year, jumped over to Festus, still a little Catholic school over there, went to Pius for a year, and then decided that wasn't for me. So I came back and spent the last 3 years at Herky and graduated in '72.
Okay. Rick and Bill were class of 70.
Yeah,
You were 72.
72.
Steve, you were 71, right?
71, that's
Yeah.
correct.
And who were your parents?
My parents are Virgil and Ann DeClue. My dad Virgil was from Festus, and he met my mom when he was in the Navy up east, Massachusetts, somewhere up there. And they ended up getting married, coming back here, and then he worked for McDonnell Douglas for, well, his entire career. And Mom worked there for a few years, and then I guess, you know, the pull of having kids and staying home. And Dad got whatever promotions he got, moved up the ladder, so.
Okay. Huh? Yeah. How many? I know you got a bunch of siblings.
So I have a couple, yeah, they're all boys. You know. The oldest brother is David, and I just call him Kim. And then we had a Scott Chase that died shortly after birth, and then the next one was named Scott Chase as well, and he's still doing well. Works at the bottle plant. And my youngest brother Lance is, I don't know who he works for, but he lives in Festus. So
I'm glad, Mark, you mentioned about your dad being a POW. How long was he? Was it Germany?
Yeah, he was, he was captured at the Battle of Monte Cassino. He was, if you ever see any of the war films from that time and stuff, they had a pontoon bridge across a little river, and he was in the first group that made it across the pontoon bridge, and that got blown up, and they were never able to establish another one, so him and all the guys who were in the first group got captured. He was a POW for 15 months in Germany.
none of the famous camps.
Not that I know of, no. He didn't talk about a whole lot, but,
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I've read a lot about them.
right, but, he wasn't in any of the gas chamber camps or anything like that. He was just in one of the stalags for the Protestants, I would say.
Did any of your own or operate a business in Herculaneum?
Nothing to talk about.
No.
Do what?
Nothing to talk about.
Okay.
That gambling casino?
Yeah,
Dad was,
backroom gambling.
you know, Dad was real good on making bathtub beer.
Okay. How many children do you have, Bill? I know you-
I've got four children, and been remarried. In between us, we've got 9 children and 21 grandkids.
That
A
Harmon,
mess.
he's on the 8 families. I have 2 boys.
I
Mark,
don't have any kids.
Steve,
I have 3, a son and 2 daughters.
and just became a grandfather again.
Yes, so that's my second grandson.
Growing up in Herculaneum, and this goes back when you were actually growing up, what kind of activities did you participate in? Bill, you can go last.
I mean, like neighborhood baseball and football games.
Yeah,
You know, where I
okay.
live, we had pump house
Yep.
Right.
across the street and a big field, so it was always baseball, football, fist fights, whatever you could come up with. Those were the activities. Bike riding, of course.
Yeah.
And you could ride, back then you could ride all over town. I mean, you could ride anywhere and not have anybody worry about you. And of course, you know, when it started getting dusky, you knew to be heading home because it's gonna be trouble if you weren't home by dark.
Yeah.
So, or if you were in hearing range and they were yelling supper.
And that was one of the nice things about Herky was the shift whistles from the plant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if your parent would tell you, okay, be home by 6, well, you knew the shift will whistle at 6, so you listened for it, and when you heard it,
Yeah.
you headed for home. Same thing with, you know, 3 and 4. You know, during the afternoon, your parents would say, be home at 3, be home at 4, and you could listen for it, and you'd head for home. It was great. You know, we did a little bit of everything in my neighborhood. The guys, there was a nice empty lot over behind the east house, which bordered Kevin Evans' house and the east house, and I was terrible at sport. I mean, think of the worst player you ever saw, and I was worse than him. But what the guys would do, they were nice enough, like they would say, okay, Rick, you be the catcher for both teams, okay? I would be the catcher for both teams. Or if we were playing football, it was you be the center for both teams. All I had to do is hike the ball, you know? And so they let me be part of it without having to screw up the games, which was real nice of them, you know? I'm forever grateful for that. But yeah, it was, you know, stuff like sandlot football, sandlot baseball, whatever, you know. One time, Roger East, he got a string and he put a balloon on it, right? And he let it go up and went up and went up, and it went up like so far you can't believe. So pretty soon everybody in the neighborhood was running around getting string out of the junk drawer of their house. And we kept adding string to it. And you know, other kids would come up and they say, what are you guys doing? We'd say, well, we got this balloon with string on it. And so everybody started adding string. And pretty soon we could not see the balloon anymore. It was just, we kept adding string to it, and all the kids kept coming. My cousin came from down the street. It was like, what are you guys doing? We were adding string. And pretty soon we couldn't see the balloon anymore. And we just watched it and we thought, well, you know, and somebody said, well, I gotta go home now. And somebody else said, yeah, me too, I gotta go home now. So, you know, there was the string, so what are we gonna do? We said, well, just leave it. So we just left the balloon and it just faded off. We don't
It
know.
might still be up there.
We don't know where it went, but
UFO reporting.
yeah, you know, but we did stuff like that. You just never knew what was gonna happen at any time during the day. And you just kind of went with the flow, you know, whatever was there.
We had a lot of vacant lots, the one you mentioned by Kevin
Yeah.
and Roger East, where City Hall is now.
Right.
That was a field we played a lot of ball on. In 1960, they started, the Little League was here in town, but they started what they called the minor leagues. And they had 4 teams.
Yeah.
And Rick and I were on the same team,
Oh, God.
and we were the champions of the league that year.
Yes, we were.
Yeah,
Yes, we were.
we had other people like, I think Gary Horn was on there.
Gary
Dickie
Horn.
Sin.
Yeah. I mean, these guys could really play ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't play ball, but these guys could. It was, and we did really good that year. I mean, we won, and then we played a team from St. Louis and lost 32-0.
Blew your bubble there.
Yeah.
10-run rule yet. Huh?
Yeah. What, Mark, what'd you guys do? Kind of the
played-
same thing, or?
A lot of the same stuff. Played softball and wiffle ball in the backyards. Then we'd go down to the ball fields and play baseball when we moved up to, you know, something a little harder and stuff. Played a lot of football on the different fields in Herky. Went down to the tennis court, played a lot of basketball during the basketball season. A lot of sleigh riding. We used to get some decent snows.
Yeah.
Go over to the high school hill, sleigh ride down there, or sleigh ride down Pussyterry's Hill, because they wouldn't, some of the hills they wouldn't chat. They'd leave packed down for the kids to go sleigh riding on, which was great, you know.
Back in those days too, where the parking lot is at the high school,
Yeah.
that used to be a terrace area.
Yeah.
Benches in it, trees, so that was a good
Oh, that was a
sleigh
great one.
riding.
Yeah, had a couple dips in it, went
Yeah.
down,
Yeah,
down
that was a lot of
again.
fun.
Had a small dugout right before the second dip. So if you hit that, you went airborne. Yeah. Oh, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a hill like that. It started up next to at the top of the hill that went down reservoir. It
Yeah.
started up near the reservoir,
Mm.
and it came down, and it made about a 90-degree turn at the Catholic school. And then it came down, it rolled over the street. And we would do that, you know? Now, if you didn't make that turn near the Catholic school, you went flying in the air into this Catholic schoolyard, which was great. It was like a double, double surprise. So, but you got so much speed going down that hill. It was really, really cool.
What'd you do up on Scenic Drive?
Well, like, talking about that, we'd sleigh ride from the very top of Scenic Drive and down to the road and all the way down to the golf course, basically. And that was before they put the McNutt through there. And we had a lot of fun doing that. We played a lot of basketball, a lot of baseball up there. Rick Sims, they had a lot next to them that we played quite a bit on. And then I'd go down to the bottom of the hill and the Drennans had a spot to play. So we did a lot of that.
Steve, did I ask you that, or what you
Did
did?
you guys go in
Already?
Well, it's been a long time
into
to the field across from my house.
to chase
Yeah.
the bull?
Pump house.
In the farm.
Before the Washington, Lincoln, and Jefferson were graded out, I think it just used to be wild weeds.
Oh, it did.
Oh, yeah.
Woods back there.
We used
So
to
it's
play
been a lot
in
of
that a
time
lot.
back there knocking around too, trying to find snakes or whatever.
I know you guys, I think all of you were in Scouts.
Yeah.
I only made Cub Scouts.
Oh.
I never got out of the Cub Scouts.
I didn't get very far. in
Didn't
Boy
graduate.
No,
But-
I didn't.
But I do know you guys got involved with the Explorers,
Yeah,
your latter years of high school, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, when they told us we didn't have to get merit badges anymore, we went, okay, let's go.
Yeah, let's have
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, and basically that's what it was. Let's all get together and find a way to make money so we can go and have fun. And it worked out really good.
Who were some of the leaders?
Let's see,
Wallace O'Shea.
yeah, Wallace O'Shea, the bear was the big kahuna. And, Norm Shelley,
Yeah,
Norm Shelley and,
Virgil DeClue.
Your dad?
My dad
Yeah.
was involved, yeah.
yeah, it was a great bunch of guys.
Remember when Smiling Jack got mad at the bear, hollering at him, he says, "You can go ahead and leave, the door swings both ways."
Who was that?
The bear telling that to Rick Portell.
Yeah,
May he rest in peace.
yeah, it was, it was a loose group, let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
I
But,
always remember your meeting at the drugstore
yeah,
before your meeting.
yeah,
And I guess you went up, I don't know where you went.
up in the Embeds,
Yeah.
the Embeds Club up above, and, we basically, we earned money so we could have fun.
She wanted to
So
know,
how-
what did you do for money?
To raise
What
money.
did we do for
What'd
money?
you do to raise
We,
money?
oh,
light
listen,
bulbs?
we sold light bulbs, light bulbs. Light bulbs. We sold light bulbs, we had
Paper
Christmas
drive.
tree stand,
Yeah.
we did a car wash.
Fireworks, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, listen, we did
Yeah,
everything.
sold fireworks.
Sold fireworks, we made a lot of money.
And for the most part, we used it to go to camp down, usually down at one of the, like SPRF down south, or we went down Smoky Mountain several times
Yeah,
and camped down there.
yeah,
A lot of fun.
yeah, we did, that we could go down to the regulation scout camp, or we could go to Florida.
What kind of activities did you participate inside school? I know a lot of you were in the band.
I was in the band. You have to talk to these other guys. They were a lot more participatory than I was.
I wasn't necessarily, just in band.
Yeah.
And what'd you play?
I was in the drum section, the
yes,
troublemaker
drummer.
section.
With blaiben.
Yes, he was.
We had more fun back there. We were always in trouble.
Mark, was you in the band? or-
No, I didn't do any band. The only thing I really did, I played baseball for 2 years and I was basketball manager the senior year and all. But that was about the only thing.
Rick, what'd you do in the band?
I played the tuba. Yeah, I was the lead tuba player, I'll have you know, and was the first person in Herculaneum to play a fiberglass sousaphone. Don't let anybody else tell you different. Fiberglass.
Percussion, yeah, a little bit of everything, drums, and timpani, and bass drum, and cymbals, and whatnot.
Well, going back to high school, who were some of the teachers you remember? I know Bob Gray has
Yes,
to be one of them.
yep.
Others,
In high school or
high school
high school?
Let's see, who
or grade school.
didn't?
Jordan ran.
Remember
Yeah.
Jordan?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, he was the first male teacher we had.
Right.
And he really kind of, he let us do things that no other teacher let us do.
In fifth grade, we were buying and selling stocks, and, teaching us how to write checks and all
Wait,
that.
is this high school you're talking about?
No.
That's grade school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
missed that.
I mean, he had us do our own class newspaper in fifth grade. That was amazing for us.
I may have to bring Jordy in for one of these.
Mm.
I mean, he really had a big impression on us all.
Mm.
Despite the fact he looked like Superman, which
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
for me, that was, our teacher's Superman.
Yeah, he did.
He did. And then when he put the glasses on, I was like, are you kidding me?
Clark Kent.
If you remember, he had a '59 blue Chevy convertible
Yeah.
that he rode around in town. Any others, grade school?
Yeah, Mrs. Burris, I had her in sixth grade.
Yeah, she was
Dynamite.
She was great. I mean, we didn't even think about the fact she was a black woman at
Yeah.
the time. She was just really a good teacher, and it was like,
And she didn't put up with any nonsense either.
No.
no,
And when we had her, she wasn't that far removed from the segregated schools
yeah.
system, you know? So, I had her, I think, in '62, maybe, somewhere in there. But yeah, I always thought she was one of
Yeah.
the better teachers.
And Mrs. Mason,
Oh, yeah.
oh, Mrs. Mason, I think everyone in class had a crush on her. Despite the fact she looked like Miss Landers on DVD.
Yeah. Well, no, you're laughing, but it's true.
Yeah.
And Jordan Rim was always cycling up to her, talking to her. I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Well,
What'd she teach? What?
fifth grade.
Oh,
Yeah.
she
You
was-
guys
No, she
had,
was sixth grade.
well, I had her for fifth.
Oh, you had her for fifth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're right with what you said.
Jordan,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, she was, I always wondered what happened to her, you know,
Yeah.
she was like, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
That's
And
kind of,
also, she was the one that told us about the Kennedy assassination.
Mm.
And she handled it with such grace. And, I mean, it was, because that would have been tough to do. And for her to come in and tell us that the way she did was just,
Yeah, it's a real freak out situation for
Yeah.
kids, I think.
we were told by Roscoe Brewington.
okay.
When he came in and told us, he was crying.
Yeah.
So we're like, wow, Any other elementary teachers? Mark, or- Well, you went to.
Yeah, I went to, the Catholic school, so those were all
I think
nuns
I
and
had
stuff.
Mrs. Eichenberger in
Mrs. Eichenberger, yeah.
second grade, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be, and then I had Mrs. Parker in fourth grade,
Lillian?
and if you held your pencil wrong, it was
Oh,
no
yeah.
ruler across the knuckles.
Man.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I knew how to hold my pencil.
Oh,
That's
Mr.
good.
Freeman.
Mr. Freeman.
Great.
Mr. Freeman was like, when you're that little and you look up at him and he's, wow.
Yeah,
He
he's,
was a big guy
he
at
is
the
a
time,
huge guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember he came in and taught us about ancient Rome. Remember when he did that? That was one year, I don't remember what year it was, but he came in and told us about Rome, ancient Rome, and it was great. I mean, we didn't know what to expect from this guy who was giant and you're afraid of and everything. And he came in and it was just tremendous, so good.
I saw him hit, kids in the restroom, standing at the urinal with his ruler. He always had this big yardstick.
Yeah.
And it was nothing for him to smack some kid or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And walking down the halls, straight line, man.
Yeah.
You better be.
Yeah.
And I can always remember Kevin Evans tripping somebody, so everybody.
He's being outed here on film. There you go, Kevin.
Don't watch this, Kevin. How about in high school, teachers that stood out? You said Bob Gray.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
Mr. Gray. I mean, it, not for everybody, because he was really, really, you know, he was a guy. But the thing was, and it's something that I discovered a lot later on, something that I finally realized is he was, he you know, he wanted you to respect what I thought was him. He wanted that respect. He wanted, you know, he wanted you to do things right. But what I realized later on is he didn't want you to respect him. He wanted you to respect the music. He wanted you to respect the playing of the music, that it meant something. And he wanted you to realize that. And, you know, a lot of people didn't get it. And I didn't get it for, you know, decades until later. I thought, oh, wait, you moron. You know, he doesn't want that respect for himself. He wants it for the music and the playing of the music.
Yeah.
And that's why we had the bands we had.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we had those bands that could go anywhere in the state and blow everybody else away. And it, you know, a lot of people didn't get it, and they didn't, you know, they didn't like that kind of, you know, that need for respect and all that. And I get it. They didn't understand it. And, you know, it's just, some people got it and some people didn't. And I mean, he meant a lot to me personally, because he gave me options to do things that I wouldn't have gotten to do otherwise. And he really, you know, he I don't know, he was like, almost like a second father to me in some ways. And he meant a lot to me.
I've heard that from many
Yeah.
people, not my sister, but. Bill, I don't think I asked you about the sports. I know you played basketball.
Yeah. Basketball, tried football, but when I was my freshman year, I tried football, and I was like 135 and 6'2", so it didn't work out real good. Which I worked down at Liberty Cafe, you know, for spending money, and so the guy that owned it told me that I had to pick one of the other to play, because I couldn't do both. That's not a no-brainer. Basketball, you know.
You kind of alluded to it a while ago. Any memorable events that happened? You mentioned the Kennedy assassination. Any other?
We had the second school burning.
Yeah.
I think that was my junior year.
Yeah.
I think it was the school caught on fire.
It wasn't as bad as the.
No, it wasn't as bad as the
fire.
first one.
Yeah, it did, and over
did.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, because we missed a day or two or so
Yeah.
of school because of that. Because I know, well, all of us who live close went down and was, you know, watching with the firemen and everything, and all the, so many of the kids' dads and all were volunteer firemen and everything. That was a pretty big event.
Yeah. Recall anything else?
Other than getting caught in the gymnasium playing hockey
Yeah,
on
well.
the gym floor, I mean,
Yeah,
Or-
other than that.
Getting caught in the gyms when we weren't supposed to be in there.
Kevin Evans, once again.
Tom,
Yeah.
Art Minks Art McCoy and Robert Taylor was always big ones that we all would go into the gyms during bad weather, snow days, stuff like that. We'd sneak into the gyms and play basketball.
Oh, yeah. As a young person, including grade school, high school, where'd you hang out?
Oh, the drugstore.
That's a biggie.
It was my second home. And I didn't work there.
But that's where the comics were.
That's right.
No,
I just,
no buy, no look.
well, yeah,
Always buy.
Oh, forget it, buddy.
We bought enough comic books to
Yeah.
keep the drugstore in business.
No, I went to the drugstore every day. I mean, literally every day. And it was just part of my routine. Go home, drop off the books, head for the drugstore. That was it for me, you know? It was it. That was where you hung out.
Where'd you hang out, Bill?
Well, pretty much when I was in town, the drugstore. Outside of that, I kind of just hung around playing basketball and run, messing around in the woods, because where we lived, it was all woods. It wasn't across the road, it was all, it's all subdivision now, but it used to be Bon Acres Farm over there. So,
It's where the Westchester subdivision
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It was across the street from.
So did you go to the Bon Acre farm and chase the bulls?
we didn't chase the bulls. The bulls would,
Chase you.
well, we were very wary of the bulls. Yeah, we wouldn't pick blackberries.
Campus Inn was always there.
You know,
That
As
was
long
the
as
other
they were
little
open,
store.
and you'd go hang out there and waste your money on pinball and sodas and hamburgers, candy.
That and some of the other little small
Yeah.
stores like Pussyterry's and,
Was tired.
what was the one across from the Catholic school, the big,
Homer Luckey's.
Love
Oh,
Keys.
yeah,
Yeah.
best
Oh, yeah.
tank candy in town.
Yep, yep.
Then I know we spent a lot of times in the woods, either like you were talking, the field between Hill Street and where Steve lived.
Mhm.
That was all just woods, and it had a beautiful, like you say, grain field out there.
Yeah, it was golden.
Oh, it'd get like 3 feet tall. You'd go out there, and me and my sister would go out and do a picnic lunch, just the two of us. We'd go out and pat down a place in there and just have a nice little picnic lunch in the middle of the summer, something like that. And then the creek and the Mississippi
Yeah.
were always you had to go
That's
down there and
coming up
mess
to my
around.
head.
And they always have to walk up or down the tracks a ways.
Oh, of
too.
course,
You
yeah.
can't just go down there and look. You
No,
had to travel.
right.
Yeah.
And yet sometimes you went north, sometimes you went
Exactly.
south, across the trestle, down
Sometimes you
to
could grab a
shot tires.
car.
What'd you,
Yeah.
You mentioned the creek and the river. What'd you do? Any activities?
Well, we did a little fishing, but we'd always, if one of those docks was on the Mississippi, you always had to get on there and push out into the water, because it had a big cable tying it to the rocks too, so it was secure. But of course, we weren't supposed to do that, but, you gotta play Mark Twain, to Huckleberry Finn,
Yeah, we do that
in our
too.
blood.
Yeah, if Dave Best was here, he can substantiate this. But at Dave's house, we'd go down the bluff, because he lived right on the bluff. And we go down the bluff, and then we go north on the tracks to Dow Chemical,
Yeah.
who had a styrofoam graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
And the pieces of styrofoam that they were like chunked up or whatever, we would take a big one that was about this thick and about this wide, and we put it in the river. I can't believe we did this, it was so stupid. And we'd take these big chunks of styrofoam and put them in the river and pull around in the river, mind you, on these big chunks of styrofoam. We could have been killed, but that's what we did. And also we would get big drums from Dow that were like cardboard, and they had
Hazardous.
hazardous materials, and we would roll them up to Dave's house, and then take them up to the bluff, to the top of the bluffs at Dave's house, and then we would get inside them, and roll down to the edge of the bluffs where we would build something, something to stop us.
Oh,
you know?
okay.
So, and we'd roll down and it would stop us, and we would just keep doing it, see how many times we could roll down. And, that was pretty dangerous too. But, that's the kind of stuff we did for fun in a small town in Missouri.
The area he's talking about is next to, Dunklin's gravesite.
That's right,
Yeah.
Right.
that's right, exactly.
So that's a pretty good drop off.
It is, it's a pretty good drop off. And it may kind of explain why we are the way we are.
Well, the lead smoke has a lot to do with that.
Well,
too.
yeah, you could blame some of that, but, yeah, but that's what we would do.
Steve, you got anything to top that?
No, I'm hard to top. Other than jumping cars across the, south of, the plant.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, railroad cars.
Yeah, jump on a car and ride it for a while, which
They would go
incredibly
slow.
stupid as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was always a spot you knew was coming up ahead that was bare and open enough where you could hit and roll away from the tracks. So
Yeah.
that was-
Yeah, I mean, most of we have to thank St. Joe Lead for putting so many fun things to do.
Exactly.
That's true.
And they, empty railroad cars, those big chat piles.
I've been meaning to write him a letter.
Yeah, it's just,
When we used to play hockey on the one pond back there in the chip that piles.
Yeah.
We used to play hockey right down here.
Right over
Yeah,
that
right.
little lake.
Yeah, when
New
it would
bridge.
freeze up.
Yeah. What are some, did you ever work in town? You ever have a job actually in
oh,
town?
yeah.
Drugstore.
Drugstore?
I cleaned the post office windows, though. The regular guy broke a leg or an arm or something, I can't remember. So Mom was working at the post office at the time. She started filling in part-time when they needed her and stuff. So I got the job cleaning the post office windows and mopping the floor and stuff like that for one summer. That gave me a little extra money.
Back in those days, the mail came in twice a day. You would get your mail in the morning,
Then
then
go,
you'd go down in the evening and get more mail. Now you can't even get a letter from here to Festus.
yeah, and we didn't have any delivery. Everybody had to go. And if you went to the post office, it's right beside the drugstore, so you had to stop in the drugstore too,
I think that was in the rules.
Yeah, I believe so.
No doubt.
And then, didn't your family have the little restaurant?
Cafe down there.
The cafe?
Breeze Cafe, yeah.
Yeah, used to go down there and play pinball and get a sandwich or a soda or something.
Yeah, heck yeah. It was like, I actually I know Bill worked during the day at the drugstore, but at night, Dave Bess and I were the scrubbers of the drugstore floor, which was great fun.
Yeah,
You
oh, yeah.
know, the electric scrubbing machine, which had a short in the handle, which was, you never knew what was coming, and it knocked you. But yeah, I did that, and also, I guess, working at the plant, does that count?
Oh, yeah.
So I worked at the plant for 2 summers, which was great fun. Which led directly to my other job, which, I don't wanna do this, so I gotta find something else to do.
Yeah, working at the plant, I did 3 summers and it would convince you you needed to do
Something else.
Something else.
It was fun working with all these summer help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Herky, Festus, Crystal, but it was not
It was
safe,
not,
it was not clean.
No, it was,
I was lucky there because Dad worked over at that chemical.
Oh.
So I got to, in high school, you had to be graduated. And then I got to work 2 summers at the Dow plant. And that was a lot safer and healthier, but it had there was a lot of fumes that weren't healthy over
It
there.
was definitely cleaner.
It was much, much cleaner.
Wow.
Steve, you work somewhere?
Yeah, I worked, at the bowling alley, setting pins.
Oh, good old bowling alley.
Yeah, that was great fun. Danny Hayes and you talk about wild, it was wild.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked at the bowling alley, I'm just off and on, I didn't
You
have
know,
it
for a
full
lot of
time.
people that don't remember or haven't seen it in old movies,
Yeah.
they knock the pins down, we're back there sitting up, you jump down into the pit, pick up the pins that had fallen or been knocked down, put them in the rack, get back up, send the ball back. And then they finish the frame.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, a pin would be wobbling and you'd hear it go down, and you jump down and reach up, look up, and there's the ball coming. Because they didn't see you up there. And we had a lot of fun, Danny and I did. Worked hard some days.
Yeah, yeah, you could.
Bill, did you work anywhere? Well, you said the drug.
Yeah, at the drugstore later.
Yeah.
But I worked mainly, I sold papers.
Yeah,
You know, grid
grit.
papers and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
all that when I was younger.
You had the grit, right?
And the grit. Used to read that faithfully.
Eventually started working, cleaning, or washing dishes and stuff down there, across the city. And then eventually after, like you guys, I worked at Dover Run during the summers, and then, with Mormon at the drugstore. When later, well, actually, right after high school, when I started going to Jefferson, then that's when Mormon got me, started working as a pharmacist, not a pharmacist, but just a tech.
I got a summer in down at Joe. That was all I needed.
Yeah.
You remember the pharmacist there?
Mr. Higgins,
Yeah.
I can't remember his first name, but
It was Glenn Higgins.
Glenn Higgins, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Steve, they got you by the.
Do you
by the
remember,
frame?
was Russell Tate
Maybe a
there?
frame or
or,
something.
I
I'm
remember
not gonna tell you
Russell
over
Tate.
the
No.
ball.
Oh, gosh, you know, I don't.
Joe Schrammel?
And
I remember
the
Joe.
name.
I didn't care.
Joe Albright.
had some money at the end of the night.
I thought it was like a penny frame or something like that.
Don't
People
remember
pick
being
it
down
right
there
out of the
with
drawer, and when we buy candy soda and then go right over to the pinball machines, he got it all back, so.
Moving on, what are some of the memorable businesses and buildings? You've kind of alluded to some of them already. You remember being in Herculaneum,
Oh, gee.
The IGA,
Yeah.
Yeah.
those are the big steps right
Yeah.
down there, and,
which weren't as big as they looked.
No,
Yeah.
but they were to us then.
yeah,
Yeah, they were to us.
The old, what was the guy that you went down and paid your bills?
Oh, Mr. Fact.
Facts, and he had the
Yeah.
shop that had,
That had everything
it
in
was
it.
the Kohler City of.
yeah, I've heard,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Mr. Feck, and you go back into his house.
Yeah, little
To pay your
room with the,
bills.
It was
And-
good.
Yeah, and it was like, it seemed so big, Feck seemed so big,
Yeah.
with so much stuff in it. And then you go into this little bitty room with a gas furnace in it to
Him and his
pay your
wife.
bills. And that's where, you
And the
know,
dog.
and then his son, Billy, would come out, and Billy looked like baby Huey. Billy came in, and he was huge.
he was.
And it was, and I think there was stuff up above.
Oh, there was, because that's where you had to, I think up there was where Dad had to go and get some pipe threaded and stuff like that. I mean, he had all the stuff to do what you needed, you know, like a true hardware store. He sold the stuff, he had things like that.
They sold furniture.
Oh, yeah.
Bicycles.
Yeah.
Toys.
It was amazing.
I
You,
just-
you didn't go in and shop.
No.
You went in and told them what you wanted.
Yeah, 'cause you'd have never found it.
You would
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the side of DeClue had his,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
old TV shop, yeah.
Yeah.
people used to ask if I was related to him, no.
Yeah, side of Clue, you go into side of Clues and you could either buy, your furniture, your appliances, or you could buy an outboard motor.
Yeah.
It was like, okay. It was a strange little,
Yeah, he sold a lot of TVs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of TVs.
oh,
A lot
man.
of boat motors and also boats.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
real big in the, recreational boats.
yeah, it was
Then, of
amazing.
course, was McGreen's
Oh, the laundromat,
laundromat.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the barber shop.
Yeah, and you had two barbershops.
Yeah.
Turkey.
You had
You had
Mr. Livingston's.
Buster Livingston, across the street from my house.
Right,
but-
and you
Which
had-
is no longer there, I might say, my house. But yeah, but the thing is even though Buster Livingston was, or Ben Livingston was right across the house from my house, I went to Buster's shop because he had comic books on the table.
Yeah,
And I went in every time and I would say, and this is when Jimmy Pat was running, I'd say, hey, Jim, you wanna trade some comics? And he'd say, oh, sure, take whatever you want, and then bring me back something else. Well, I would take him whatever I wanted.
didn't always remember to bring it
Didn't
back.
always remember to bring the other stuff back.
So that's where some of
Yeah,
my
that's
guys
right.
didn't get to read.
That's
went
right.
to.
But yeah, no, it was fun. It was really fun.
Casey Hall was pretty popular.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of things went on then.
Yeah,
Because that's one where we used to go play indoor.
Yeah.
Hockey.
One of the
Yeah.
things.
Well, we never broke windows, I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Of
you know,
course,
they had everything in that place.
Yeah.
up the hill was the library.
Yeah.
Originally, and next to it was the theater.
Yes.
Yeah,
You and I talked about, I thought it already had burned
Yeah.
years ago, that was the rumor.
It was just abandoned.
Was that what it was, abandoned?
yeah.
And then you had,
And then a small fire set,
So now, that's an official word now.
yeah, yeah,
you had Mises Donut Shop
Yep.
behind
Oh,
the
man.
library and the old cinema.
Yeah.
They had Mom and Dad used to take square dance lessons in a building that was right up there,
That
two of
was
them.
the Ponderosa Club.
Okay,
I don't know what it was originally,
I
but,
remember the name.
yeah. And there were several taverns around.
oh,
Oh,
yes,
Oh, my gosh.
Tiny horses.
Yeah.
yeah, Tiny's and Pugs,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
that
of
was cool.
course you had the,
I remember-
Which always had pinball machines, which is what
Yeah.
attracted.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
did, yep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, Pugs like did an overhaul,
Yeah,
you know, for a while, and it became something else, like
Highfalutin,
and it.
Brass rail.
Yeah, the brass rail.
That's
And
what got
then the little
forgotten
place
that.
next to it became the Blue Room
Yeah.
at the brass rail.
well, and before what you said before they remodeled. or
Yeah, when just the
rebuilt,
tavern.
Yeah.
It was Mary Lou's.
Yeah,
Mary
Mary
Lou's.
Lou's Pub, Mary Ware, and into
Wood
the
frame,
Yeah,
it had a few steps up to it, but it had been there years before Mary Lou's.
Of course,
Yeah.
behind it across that street was Pussentaries.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. You know, I didn't, until Tom McCord told me, I didn't know Pug's name was Clayton.
Clayton Clarity,
Clayton, yeah, I just like,
Wow.
Clayton,
Never
really?
knew that.
yeah, yeah, his nickname was Pug,
Yeah.
and he called everybody Kitty.
And you had to clean your beer bottles out to get paid. We'd collect soda bottles and beer
Kids
bottles.
bring them dirty.
Well, you couldn't bring dirty beer bottles to the pub. They had to be washed out and cleaned, and you got a nickel for beer bottles. You only got 2 cents for soda bottles, so
Make
you're always
sure
looking
all
for a
those
beer
bitter
bottle.
herbs at the bottom would come. Yeah.
Did you go to church in Herculaneum?
Catholic, the little Assumption Catholic Church for me.
I did go to the Methodist church
Yep.
occasionally. Now, my mom's family was Catholic, but, and I went to a couple of masses one time with my sister, but it never took.
Bill?
I went, Manual Lutheran down in Crystal City.
I was in the Methodist church.
Yeah. Mark, did I ask you?
Yeah, I was actually, most people wouldn't believe it, but I was actually an altar boy.
It is kind of hard.
With
Boy.
horns.
You can't lie about that now, boy, that'd be bad business.
Do you remember any unforgettable characters in Herculaneum
You're looking at it.
besides?
We're the second wave.
Marty Henson,
Well,
uh,
actually, Melvin, his.
Melvin's older brother,
Yeah, oh geez, there's so many. I mean,
Butch Copeland.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, holy cow, where do you start?
You used to tell me about the two guys that hung out at,
The two guys that hung
Tiny's
out
Tavern.
in Tiny's Tavern, there were two guys that came in every day. And I assume they worked at the plant, but they came in every day and they sat at the table at the back, right next to the back door. And they dressed exactly alike. They had on shirts, I guess they were maybe, I don't know. Yeah, they just like cotton shirts that they would, button up to the top, and then they wore jackets, and then they wore those newsboy caps that were like tweed, and they sat at the back door, and they drank a beer or two, and then after that, they would go home. And they did that every day, and I never knew who they were.
Yeah, I've asked people, ever since you told me that, I've asked and nobody knows who they are.
I don't know who they are,
Who
but
they are.
they did that every day, and they left, it was just, who are those guys? It's like Butch and Sundance, who are those guys?
You had the famous Jimmy Naki.
The famous
Yeah,
Jimmy
yeah.
Naki, yes.
Or the
Jim.
infamous Jim.
Yeah, the infamous.
And,
He was in their class, so.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Jim was,
Well,
what do
that
you
brawl
say?
that he and Darrell Ravel had outside the church.
Oh my
Scout
gosh,
meeting.
yeah, and that wasn't the only one. I
No,
know,
but that was a big,
That was, they
It
would
was huge,
occasionally have these brawls.
yeah, we all wanted to go out and watch it.
And I'm the only one who got to go.
And next thing you know, Daryl's Pickles was coming in, he's going, he's crazy. His shirt's torn, and I mean, it was wild.
Now, there's a nickname.
Pickles.
Pickles, Darrell
And
Ravel.
I do not know where that came from.
I don't either.
Bill, do you remember?
We started calling him Pickles because he didn't like them.
Oh, he didn't like
He just
it.
didn't
That's
like the
why.
taste of them,
I
whatever.
think that'd be a better
I know,
story, but.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah,
nothing.
that's the only, that's as good as any, but yeah, I have no idea for sure. Thank you, Bill, for clearing that up, but it's as good as any, and yeah, Pickles, and that was it. It stuck, and he was Pickles from then on.
We all had common friends that were characters.
Yes, we did.
Kenny Marler.
Yeah,
And Marla,
Herbie
Herb,
and Ron Tucker.
yes.
Ron Tucker, Big Ron.
Those guys were
Oh,
characters you need.
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, those molds were melted down.
Yeah, broken.
Yeah. That's,
It was, yeah, the thing is if somebody were to ask me when I was a little kid, who's your best friend? I probably would have given them 6 or 7 answers, because there were 6 or 7 of us that hung out together, and we did everything together. Literally spent every day together. It might have been 2 of us, might have been 3 of us, might have been 5 of us, might have been all 7 of us, but we did everything together. And we went all through school together, we were in scouts together, we stayed at each other's houses, we did everything together. And it was lightning in a bottle. It was like we were all best friends, and we liked each other, and we got along together, and I can't explain it, I really can't, but we were all just friends, and it lasted through high school. Some of us, it lasted a little bit longer, but then when we got together again after our 40th high school reunion, it was exactly the same. And you can't explain something like
You, go ahead.
that. It happens like only once in your life, and when it happens, it's something you don't want to let go of,
You had a character that in your neighborhood, I'm trying to think of Ted,
Oh,
Ted
yeah,
Juliet.
Ted Juliet. I have since discovered Ted's life is a little bit more than I thought.
Yeah.
Ted was what you would call in the old days the town drunk. Ted would come home, he would again stop at the tavern every day and get drunk, and then come home. He would walk past my house, which doesn't exist anymore, and go up the street, which doesn't exist anymore, and he lived up the street from us, which, never mind. Anyway, he lived up the street from us, and he would go home, and he was drunk by the time he got to our house, and he would go home and he would go in, and that was it. Well, now, there were a few times when Ted would go home and be drunk, and he would stop in front of our house, and he would go back like this and go forward. And one time, a couple of friends of mine, Eldon East
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and Marty Henson,
Also,
Uh-huh.
were
Rod
at my
Norman
house.
Rogers.
We were playing board
Eldon
games,
and Roger.
and they looked out the window and saw Ted, and Ted was doing this. And Marty said, "Mrs. B, I think Ted's gonna fall down." And she goes, "Oh, no, he's not. He does that every day." And he said, "No, really, I think he's gonna fall down." So Marty and Eldon went outside to hold Ted up. And they're holding Ted up, and Ted's doing this. "Mrs. B, I really think he's gonna fall," and he keeps doing this. And so finally, they get him up and they take him home. Take Ted home, and they get him home, and everything's okay. And one time, Ted came up the street and he stopped in front of my grandma's house, who lived next door to me, which doesn't exist anymore. And he stands next door to me, next door at my grandma's house, and he turns, it's about 12 o'clock at night. And he turns to my grandma's house and he says, "Hey, what time is it?" This was about 12 o'clock at night. So he didn't get any answer from my grandma. So he went on home, and Ted did things like that all the time, okay? He was that character. Now, I have since found that in reading about Ted in the history of the town and everything, that Ted played on one of the local baseball teams. Back then, every town had a baseball team. And Ted was a very, very good baseball player. In fact, Ted was being scouted by the majors. And there were the majors who came to scout Ted playing on this team. And then World War II breaks out. Ted is then drafted. Ted goes into the war. Nobody knows what happened to Ted because he lived alone except for his sister. Ted comes out of the war, and he's a different person than he was before he went into the war.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, even if the scouts come around, they're not going to see the same guy. And I wonder, maybe that's what happened to Ted. Maybe that's why the way Ted was the way he was. And so I just, it puts a whole different cast on who this guy was, who this funny town drunk was, and why he was the way he was. And it makes you take a second look at it. And you just gotta wonder, because practically every man, at least our fathers, every guy who lived in Herky had been in the war. And many of them, I find out from reading the history of Herky, many of them had been, hurt or injured, or they had been prisoners of war, and they had all, been, they'd been changed, obviously. And you have to wonder what happened. And maybe we need to take a second look at all of this stuff. And while, there are a lot of funny guys in Herky, believe me, there are a lot of funny guys in Herky, you just have to kind of take a second look at it. And I mean, the people I knew that my parents would introduce me to, there was a fellow named Red Ming.
Ah, yes.
Who lived on the hill behind our house. One of the nicest men I
Is
ever
that hill
met.
still there?
And he played a guitar, and my mom used to sing, and my aunt used to sing with her. And he called my mom Yodeler, and he called my aunt Little Yodeler, and they'd sing, and my dad would, play his saxophone or whatever. And he played the guitar beautifully, and he'd play for my mom and my aunt. It was great. Well, I found out that Red Ming had been a prisoner of war. It's like, oh my God, this nice man who had been so nice to me as a little kid had suffered through that, and just, you would never know. You would never know. He had suffered through that. And you just don't know how much of that, I mean, and I'm talking for all of us, you don't know how much of what we experienced came through or didn't come through those guys who had basically saved the world on our behalf. And you have to wonder about that stuff. I mean, all of our dads served in the war, you know? I think my dad was in the Pacific, you know, stealing ice cream from the Marines. But, you know, everybody went through something. And those guys, we benefited from those guys, really. You know, we were, you know, we had a pretty good life. We had a lot of fun in the 50s and 60s.
We had good values instilled.
And we had good values instilled, and we had a little bit of a sense of, you know, these guys came back and they said, we went through hell, but we saved the world, you know? And we got to benefit from that. And it's kind of cool, but I don't think we realize it enough, and I don't think we pay attention to it enough, you know? We had a good time, and we're just great for having a good time, and I hope we all remember why we had a good time. That, you know, that was it for me.
What makes it difficult to realize that is the fact that when we win the big war, and immediately there's skirmishes in Korea,
Yeah,
and then right behind that, Vietnam. I mean, it just seems like there was a never-ending rolling
yeah,
conflicts. That,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
you couldn't focus on, you know.
Yeah, we didn't have a
And
chance.
thankfully, Brokaw did The Greatest Generation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But neither one, yeah.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah, we didn't have the chance to really take a breath, you know? It was just like bang, 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 bang. And we you know, we really, our guys, our dads really didn't get to, you know.
Well, Gabe he wasn't in World War II, but all of his brothers were. He was in the Navy in the early 50s, so World War II was over. But I remember one of his older brothers was dying from, I'm pretty sure it was prostate cancer. And one of my brothers said something to him about being in the war. He says, yeah, they chatted for a minute. And he said, well, what was it really like? And he's laying in a hospital bed and he starts crying.
Yeah,
I mean, he'd seen horrors, and he was a really devout Christian. I mean,
yeah,
he never missed church. He was just, he loved to laugh. He loved kids. I mean, he was just a great example that, boy, he was deeply wounded from his experiences.
Roy Thomas was another POW from Herculaneum, and there were 5 Herculaneum residents that were killed during World War II.
yeah.
And, you know, could have been a lot more.
Could have been,
But,
sure.
I got one more question for Mark, and I got one for everybody.
Oh,
You mentioned Concrete Town.
Yes.
Tell us about Concrete Town.
Well, it was a fun place to grow up, I tell you. Couldn't ask for a better town than Herky. And our little concrete town was, all the houses were just made of concrete. They were homes for the workers at St. Joe of
That
Richmond.
answers the question of how to get his name.
Yeah, that's it. It got it from all the concrete houses. There was 2 2-story houses on that street, but I know my grandma and Grandpa Casson lived in one. And I thought there was one more, I might be wrong on that, but they were about 3 rooms.
Yeah.
They just all had outhouses. When Mom and Dad first moved in the house in 51, so when my sister was born, they still had the outhouse out there. And then I was born in 53, and Dad he was putting on a little side room for a bathroom to add that to it. So that's one of the first things I'm sure that most people added to the houses at that time and everything. But I mean, we had nice lots, it had to be, I'm gonna say, maybe not quite a half acre, but you know, it was pretty good size. We could play wiffle, well, we even played softball when we were smaller until we broke a window. You know, that part happened, but, you know, they were nice sized lots, so you had plenty of room. They were fenced originally, then most of the times people took their fences down. We played a lot of football with the guys from the early, 64 Herky football team would come up across the street from my house, and the Ramseys and Copelands and Shies and
We're calling you out, Caby, you and your boys.
Helmses, and they would all play over there, and I was one of the littlest kids at the time there, so I was sort of like you. I got to be the center for but it was great. I mean, you know, you go up and down, and I had uncles that lived with my grandma and everything. She had 3 boys and 3 girls, but mom was gone at the time from there. But you know, so they knew a lot of the older ones too and stuff like that. So you just sort of ran around with some of them. That you knew everybody on the streets. It was a great time to be alive.
I've been told by many it was a rough neighborhood.
Well, yeah, you did a lot
You
of
didn't go there.
you did a lot of wrestling and you know, a few fights here and there, but it was you had to be tough, you know, otherwise you didn't get to play. As simple as that. You know, it just.
Yeah, I can imagine the Helmses and the Copelands and you know, that.
Didn't the Bateses live at the top
Bateses.
of Country Town?
There was Bates down at the other end. I don't think they lived at the top. The
Yeah,
Bateses were.
there were some at the top.
Oh, where was there?
On Thirlwell.
Oh, on Thurwell.
Yeah.
Okay. There was also, I think a Bates down farther, close to where the alley comes out,
Yeah.
between the two and crosses over. I thought there was a Bates down.
Yeah, about midway.
Yeah,
Hill
down
Street.
there, that way too, and everything.
Well, didn't you guys have a little store over there in Country Town?
It was, on Thurwell, it was, Page's, Linda
Yeah.
Page and, Mike's.
Grandma,
Mom,
I think.
was it their grandma?
Yeah.
Okay, because they had the little store there and everything you could go up to. It wasn't quite as neat as,
Listen, Terry.
well, Pussy Terry's was good, but the, Rexall, the jug store, I mean, they didn't have quite the
You know,
selection of stuff and candy and stuff, you know. So, but it was close. You had Pussy Terry's on one end and then there on the back street. And so,
Rick, we had a question, where did you shop for clothes and that?
Oh.
Do you want to tell about the buying team? You did such a great job.
Yeah,
with that.
there
It's
was,
Hall of Fame.
well, actually, the nice thing about Herky, one of the nice things about Herky, I mean, there are many nice things, was the fact that you didn't, I mean, there were stores that kind of, they acclimated themselves to the town, and they, you know, you didn't, if you could get more than one thing in a store, you know, well, you know, places like Fex, you could get all kinds of stuff, but down at the bottom of the hill, from my house, which doesn't exist anymore, down at the bottom of the hill, there was a gas station. Hoots gas station, but before Hoots, it was, what was it called?
Skeeter buying.
Skeeter Byington's.
Oh, yeah.
Skeeter Byington's, and I think it was called the Green Lantern.
Yep.
I cannot tell you
That
why, but the Green Lantern existed. Now, if you went to the Green Lantern, you went Skeeter Byington's, and you pulled in and you got your gas, got your tank filled up on your car, after that, you could go inside to Skeeter Byington's after you got your gas and get a pair of shoes. Now, you tell me another gas station where you can do that, because his wife, Flo, I believe her name was Flo, she had a back room in the gas station where you could buy shoes. And then there was also a little little things over here where you can buy candy. But think about that. You could buy gas for your car and go in and get shoes for your wife if you wanted to. I mean, just, that's amazing. Now, another thing, you could go up the street from there and there would be pugs, and pugs place. Now, in the summertime, or actually all year now, I think about it, you could go to Pugs, and Pug had a side window in his tavern where you could buy snow cones. When school was, actually all year. He had a little side thing, and you could walk up to it any time of the day, and Pug would sell you a snow cone. And the thing that really kind of made Pug stand out is you could get a blueberry snow cone at Pug's, which you couldn't get at any other snow cone place anywhere. And that was the big draw for Pug's. It seemed like every store in town had two different things you could get there. And I think that's what made it.
Wasn't Pug related to Barry Boyer's mom?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Sister.
I was surprised when I first heard that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Ron Tucker was related too.
Yeah.
Ron Tucker was related
To Pug.
Yeah.
to Pug? Wow, that Pug, he got around.
Pug used to send somebody up to South County and get White Castles and bring them back and sell them.
Okay.
And
He had a heating lamp or
He
something.
was, you gotta hand it to the guy.
Do you remember any of the softball, fast pitch
Oh,
softball
yeah.
teams
Down
that used
there.
to play in the,
Yeah.
yeah. My dad.
Mr. Griever played, I know, he was a
He was
pitcher.
the pitcher, yeah. Dad played with his.
I
Rick
used,
Hart was
yeah.
on the team.
I used to go down to the baseball field across from the high schools where they played,
Yeah.
down in that. Used to watch that, and you're always chasing foul balls, trying to get them back. And
Yeah, those were good.
those
times.
were fun.
Well, it's been, go ahead.
I was gonna say something else, I just think that was a lot of fun. We used to always have the carnival that'd come in
Yeah.
and
Oh,
Amen
yeah,
to that.
into the
Yeah.
school year,
Yeah.
and it'd be there for a week.
yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
a blast, all the
Do you
carnival
remember
rides.
the wrestling matches on the football field?
Yep.
Yeah. They would bring wrestling at the Chase to the football
I
field
never
of
saw-
Herculaneum High
Was
School.
Dick the Bruiser in her?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Dick Bruiser was there.
Man,
Yeah, you
I'm
kidding?
mad because
I never
my
saw
folks
that.
should have
Yeah,
taken
I
me
remember-
to
I
that.
remember a wrestler named Red Bastine.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody threw him over the ropes, onto the cinder track.
Okay,
Yeah.
Just sliced his
oh,
back.
yes.
Yeah, they weren't prepared for that.
No,
No, they would have, I remember, they would bring them down, they brought them down twice, as I remember.
Yeah.
But they would set them up in the middle of the football field and put set up chairs around it, and it was cooler than cool.
wrestling at the Chase at the time was cool.
Wrestling-
Yeah, we all watched that.
Well, that was
growing
the
up.
thing.
And
Saturdays were
my
special.
cousin threw an ice cream and hit Tyro Mayaki in the chest. And Tyro wasn't very happy, and my cousin always got me in trouble, so there you go.
That wasn't Donnie, was it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's been interesting. I've got one final question for you all.
Okay.
You've kind of alluded to it at different points, but just summarize what it was like growing up in Herky. Bill?
It was a lot more loose and laid back and fun, we didn't have all the regulations and things to have to worry about that the kids have now at all. We just, basically, I would, when I sold the grit papers, I'd ride through, all the way through Herky, all the way down to Crystal, through Festus, and I was only like 12 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And there was no worries whatsoever. So it was good.
How many grit papers did you sell?
A lot.
What paper was it?
Grit.
Grit, it was a
Oh,
neat,
the family
Pretty
newspaper.
cool little
Yeah.
paper.
it was.
Yeah.
Had all sorts of for sales and
One-
stuff like that in it.
And how often did they come out?
Once a week.
It was great.
But never weekly.
Just to find a copy.
Rick, you want to
Yes.
summarize it? You
I-
did a good summary the other day.
I
talked to you.
wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It was I don't care what small town you've lived in, this one was better. I can't.
Uh-oh.
I'm
We'll be hearing from
true,
people.
it's truth. I've talked to other people growing in small towns, and they can't, they said, what? You what? And they can't imagine growing up in a town like this. I've tried to explain it to my wife. There's just something about it. And I don't know what it is, but there's something about this town that it's like Brigadoon, I don't know. It's a special place. And, it just is what it is.
Mark?
I'd say it was the Mayberry of Missouri, I mean, it really, you could go, like they said, anywhere, everybody knew you, knew who your parents were, if you did something, if you got caught doing something that you shouldn't, it got told back to your parents, but,
Sometimes faster than.
yeah, you could get home. But you couldn't ask for a better place to grow up, it was fun.
Yeah, you couldn't have imagined it.
Yeah.
I mean, you just couldn't sit and go, where would I like to grow up?
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
yeah, it was pure magic.
Yeah, what you said, Mark, about Mayberry, let's see. We had an Andy, we had a Barney, and we had Opie's, and we had Aunt B, and we had more than our share of Govers and Goobers.
Yeah, got it. It was a great place and
Yeah.
time that we got to grow up.
Yeah, that was part of it.
Anything else, Steve? Or-
I can't think what else to add to that. I mean,
Yeah.
really, it was fabulous.
Yes.
Well, we thank all four of you. Glad
welcome.
you decided to participate. And, it'll be on YouTube, what, a day or so?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
we'll see how many lies were told. And,
We'll see if the police come and get us for anything.
Wait, it's gonna be on the air?
well, again, thank you very much. Thanks,
Very
Thank you.
entertaining.
We enjoyed
Very entertaining.
Yes. Very
Deserving.